It's that time of year when we can start planning our holiday baking, and while you're making your cookie list, I have a simple classic recipe that's one of my all-time favorites that I'm going to share with you today. Hey friends, it's Barbara Sue at Kowalski Mountain and welcome back to the homestead. It's the time of year when we start looking towards the holidays and all of the festivities that go with it. And one of those classic family activities is cookie baking. Now, I was thrilled to be invited to a cookie collaboration hosted by Lauren, the Work From Homesteader. Now, all month long, my YouTube friends and I are going to be sharing our favorite cookie recipes. Now, to encourage you to watch all of the videos and comment on every single one, Lauren is hosting a giveaway. So for every video you watch and comment on with a thoughtful comment, you're going to be put into the drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card. Now be sure to check out all the links below and watch and comment on every video so that you have the most chances to win. Now the giveaway is going to take place on November 22nd at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and Lauren's going to do a random drawing of all the comments to draw the winner of that $50 gift card. Now let's get started and do some baking. Now, I only have a couple of favorite cookie recipes that I make. Now, when I was younger, I used to make a lot more cookies and a lot more complicated recipes. But over the years, I've learned that people love the classics. So today, I'm going to be making Snickerdoodles with fresh ground flour. Now, to make my cookies even more tasty, I'm going to be using spelt in my cookies. Now let's go ahead and get this measured out and start grinding some flour. Now I really like to use spelt in my cookies because it has a nice nutty flavor, and you can see it's kind of a darker grain. Now I mix it with the soft white just to make it go further. So I'm going to be making a double batch of cookies today. So I'm going to do 3 cups of spelt, and then the rest I'm going to use soft white wheat. Now I mix my grains like this because the soft white wheat is a much more affordable grain, but I can mix it with the more expensive ancient grains to get the best of both worlds. Now to grind my wheat, I use my Harvest grain mill. And I want to go ahead and tighten that down to a little bit tighter. And once I get it going, I'll tighten it even more to make a fine flour. So let's go ahead and grind some flour. Now in my kitchen, my Bosch Universal Plus mixer is a workhorse, and I am able to make all of our breads, all of our goodies, all of our butter right here in this mixer, and I even make ice cream. Now if you're like me, you might have trouble keeping track of which is which when it comes to your attachments on your Bosch mixer. Now the cookie paddle is a single whip, but it has a thick whip, so it's used for heavier doughs, which is going to be our cookie doughs. So we're going to put that in here. And I also like to use my bowl scraper when I'm making things like cookies, especially because I'm going to be creaming the sugar and the butter, and this helps keep all of that butter down in the bowl so that it creams properly. Now I have a first today that I'm pretty excited about. Now this is my very own butter. Now if you've been following me, we raise and milk our Dexter cows, and Apollo is about 6 months old now. But for the first 6 months we calf shared, and I got almost no cream at all. I didn't even bother to skim it except for my coffee. But now he's weaned, And now I can make my own delicious butter. So this is the first time I'm going to be using my butter in my baking. Now, since it doesn't come in convenient little sticks, I have measured that out on a scale to be exactly 8 ounces. Now for the shortening in the recipe, I am using some palm fruit shortening, and I order this from Azure Standard. And I love it because I can get it in a big bucket of shortening. Now this is a 4-pound bucket that I can buy it in bulk. And as with anything that I order from Azure, I know that I'm getting good quality. Now next up, I need to add the sugar. Now with my Bosch Universal Plus mixer, one of my favorite features is the cover, because this helps me not make a mess. If the Bosch mixer is new to you, I've done a full review video and you can see that right up here. Now I'm going to add some eggs, and it's always good practice to crack your egg into a separate bowl. Now I'm using fresh eggs, which I collect my eggs every day, so I'm really not worried about any issues with my eggs. Oops. But it's never fun to put shell into your recipe or to find something not very pleasant in your egg. Now next up, I'm going to add some salt, and this is Redmond's real salt. And actually several of the ingredients, including the salt, all come from Azure. Azure is a great place to get quality food locally, even if you live in a small town like us. And the only stores that we have in our local town are big box stores. Next up is a little bit of baking soda and cream of tartar. Now cream of tartar is another thing I get from Azure that I order in bulk. So I have these little Tupperware containers that I keep it in. Now I'm going to give that a little stir. And now I'm going to add the flour. When you convert a conventional recipe that uses all-purpose flour to fresh ground flour, you do need to increase the amount of flour that you use. Now the general rule of thumb is that you add 1/4 cup for every cup of flour called for in the recipe. So this recipe has 2 3/4 cups flour. So my total is 5.5 cups, and I'm going to add an additional 1.25 cups to make up for that difference. I'll put all the math on the screen. Now, anytime I'm making those conversions, I do them slowly because I can always add more. I can't take it out. So right now I've put in the flour that was called for. And now I'm going to add the additional cup and about 1/4. Now the next part of this recipe is that Snickerdoodles are rolled in cinnamon and sugar. Now, I'll be honest, I never measure this part, I just mix it together. Now it's time to start rolling your cookie. Now this is a teaspoon cookie scoop. It's the smaller scoop. Now I know everyone loves a big cookie. Everyone does. But I find that people eat just as many big cookies as they do little cookies. And we don't really need a ton of cookies. So to keep everything more manageable, I always do it in the smaller cookies. And then I can share it with more neighbors as well. Now, as we head into the holiday baking seasons, I wanted to share with you some of my favorite holiday baking tips. Now, including children in your cookie baking is a wonderful tradition that I highly encourage that you do. I have always baked with my children, and I also bake with my grandchildren. And I was always blown away by the number of kids who had come to my home that had never made homemade cookies. Now, I know that cooking with children takes longer and takes a lot of patience, but those memories and Christmas traditions are really worth creating. Now, especially with children, one of the things I like to do is I go ahead and I roll all of the cookie dough while I have the kids' attention. Because kids, while they love doing the cookies, they're not going to want to wait around while they bake. But they will help you roll them. So what I do is I roll all the cookies into little balls. I put them on a tray. I would bake the cookies myself and let the kids go. And that way they got to enjoy the fun part of making cookies, and I got the benefit of all their help. Now, my big cookie tip when it comes to holiday baking is about timing. Now, I don't have to tell you, especially if you have children, what a busy time of year the holidays are. And I found the most stress-free time of the year to do all of my cookie baking is on Veterans Day. Now, when I worked, I always got Veterans Day off, and I don't know about where you live, but we don't have a big Veterans Day celebration in our community, so it was basically just a time off where we could, of course, reflect and thank the veterans in our life, but there's not a big to-do that would take my attention and my time. Now, the best thing about cookies is they freeze beautifully. Now, you can do it a couple of ways. You can freeze the baked cookies, which is what I would do for my holiday baking. So on Veterans Day, I would do all of my holiday baking. I'd take the whole day. And then I can freeze those baked cookies, put them in the freezer, and whenever I have an event or I want to share some cookies with a neighbor, they're already ready and I can pull them out. Now that I'm a little bit older and Philip and I are empty nesters, I do frozen cookie dough all the time. Because Philip and I don't need to eat 10 dozen cookies. But what I would do is I would make all the cookie balls. I make them just like this, and I'm going to freeze them on this tray. And then I put them into a Ziploc bag. Whenever I'm feeling an itch for a sweet tooth, I go out and pull out some of my frozen cookie balls, throw them in the oven, and the house smells like homemade cookies. And we get to enjoy a dozen or so freshly baked cookies whenever we want them. And it didn't take me a lot of time. Now, Veterans Day is right around the corner on November 11th. So if you don't have any big plans for Veterans Day, I highly recommend that you try doing your holiday baking on Veterans Day and free up some of your time during your busy holiday season. Now, when it comes to baking with fresh ground flour, I have found that it's a lot better to let these cookies chill really well before I bake them. So even the cookies I'm going to bake today, I'm going to chill before baking. So I'm going to cook probably a dozen, maybe two, probably 2 dozen today for us to enjoy now. And then all the rest are going to go into the freezer. Now, even those cookies that I'm going to bake today, I'm going to chill them for a while. You want to chill them for at least 30 minutes up to 2 hours or however long you want to. That does 2 things. That allows the bran from the fresh ground flour to soften, which is going to make a softer cookie. And it also allows that butter and shortening to firm up, and that's going to create a better cookie for you. Now I'm going to keep rolling, and I'll be back when we're ready to bake. Now I've got the first group all ready. This is about 2 dozen, and this is what I'm going to bake today. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the fridge so they can chill. Well, my cookies are all rolled, and I'm going to go stick these in the freezer so that we can enjoy cookies throughout the holiday season. Now it's a beautiful solar day, so I have my outdoor oven, my electric oven, preheating to 400 degrees. Now inside, I'm going to go ahead and prep these pans. Now I like to use parchment paper when I'm baking. So much easier. Now the cookies have been chilling for a few hours. I don't know how long really. But it's time to get them ready to bake. Oh, I miscounted. I am 1 cookie short of 2 dozens. I'm going to get blamed for eating that cookie. But you're my proof. Let's get these in the oven. Now those cookies are going to bake for 8 to 10 minutes, and I switched the shelf about midway so they don't get burned on the top. So I'll be watching them. Here they are. I have to be super careful with that oven because the cookies are so close to the element, since it's such a small oven, that sometimes they burn. So I have to be super, super careful. They look delicious. Now the last thing I need to do is pack up my frozen cookies. So these are frozen solid. And I just keep these in a Ziploc baggie. And I was recently asked, how long do the cookies last in the freezer? Well, I don't know, because we eat them quicker than they could last in the freezer. So I just keep them in a simple Ziploc. I don't do anything special to preserve them or keep them from freezer burn, because it won't matter. We're going to eat them. And these are ready for the freezer. I can pull them out and bake them whenever I want. Now I don't defrost them first. I just put them on the tray, put them in the oven, and bake. Well, friends, as always, I really appreciate you watching, especially to the very end. If you've watched me through the collaboration, thank you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button below so you can become a part of the Kowalski Mountain family. We'd love to have you. Now be sure to put a comment below if you want to be able to have a chance at that $50 Amazon gift card. Thanks so much, friends. We'll see you next time.